Lucy cautiously opened the door to Wendy's room. The light from the lamp that filtered through the half-closed blinds made the room look almost fairy tale-like, stacks of books, scattered sheets of notes, and photographs on the walls. Wendy was asleep on the bed, propped up against a pillow. Lucy's heart was pounding, but she took a few steps forward confidently. She watched Wendy for a long time, admiring her delicate features. In the darkness, it seemed that her friend was a work of art that could only be seen in dreams. "Wendy!" Lucy whispered, barely audible. Wendy stirred, but did not wake up. Lucy leaned closer to get a better look at her face. She couldn't help but smile. At that moment, she realized that she had known the answer to her feelings for a long time. Lucy touched Wendy's cheek with a trembling hand and, holding her breath, leaned closer. The kiss was as gentle as the touch of a butterfly. Wendy opened her eyes. They were big and bright with surprise, but there was no fear or anger. Just a moment of confusion. "Lucy." Her voice was quiet and sleepy. "I couldn't help it," Lucy replied, feeling her cheeks burn. Wendy was silent for a moment, then sat up and gently took Lucy's hand. "You know, I've been waiting for you to do this," Wendy said quietly, smiling. Wendy squeezed Lucy's hand tighter. Her eyes looked straight at her friend, and there was something in that look that Lucy couldn't explain. It wasn't just gratitude or joy, it was a feeling that she, too, had been trying for a long time to do something important. "Why were you silent before?" Wendy asked quietly. Lucy sat down next to him on the edge of the bed. She smiled faintly, wiping away a tear that had accidentally fallen from her eye with her fingers. "I was afraid I would ruin everything we had," she admitted. "But now, I just couldn't keep it to myself." Wendy leaned closer, and there was only breath between them. Her voice was warm and gentle. "We were friends, but, Lucy, that doesn't mean we can't be more. I've been wanting to tell you for a long time." Wendy's words were interrupted by a loud crack. Lucy turned her head sharply towards the source of the sound. It was the window frame. The blinds were slightly opened, letting in a strange dim light from outside. "What is this?" Wendy whispered, looking fearfully out the window. Lucy stood up to come closer. She pulled back the blinds and froze. There was nothing familiar on the street. Instead of the familiar landscape in front of their house, a strange darkness stretched out, like clouds rolling over the ground. The light that came out of this darkness seemed to pour from hundreds of unknown sources, scattering in chaotic patterns. "Lucy, do you see this?" Wendy was already there, squeezing her shoulder. "Yes. But I don't understand what this is." The room suddenly became cold, and they both had a strange feeling that they were no longer alone. From outside the window came soft, barely audible voices. They were so faint that it was impossible to make out the words, but it seemed as if they were whispering directly to them. "Maybe this is a dream." Wendy pressed herself against Lucy. "If this is a dream, then we're both in it," Lucy whispered, trying to calm her friend, even though her own heart was pounding with fear. The darkness outside the window suddenly began to move, swirling like a whirlpool that was preparing to engulf everything around it. "We have to find out what it is. Otherwise..." Lucy was cut off as the door to the room slammed shut behind them. Their world began to change. Lucy and Wendy turned to the door. The handle turned slowly, as if someone were standing on the other side, trying to get in. But it was impossible. They knew for sure that no one else was in the house. "Don't open it," Wendy whispered quickly, grabbing Lucy's hand. The door suddenly stopped creaking. The feeling of threat became almost tangible. The cold intensified, and breathing became harder, as if the air in the room was drying out. "Lucy, this is definitely not a dream," Wendy said in a trembling voice. "Stay with me," Lucy replied, trying to sound confident even though fear was literally paralyzing her. She took a step forward, towards the door, but it suddenly closed again with a loud thud, as if something heavy had struck it from the other side. Lucy and Wendy turned back to the window. The darkness beyond it was no longer just darkness. Shapes began to emerge in the depths of this black vortex. Figures. They were blurry, like silhouettes shimmering in the fog. But with each passing second they became clearer. They were people, or something resembling them, but their movements were unnatural, broken, as if they didn't know how to move properly in this world. One of the figures, the tallest, stepped forward. Her face remained hidden in the darkness, but the light that spread around her cast a long, terrible shadow on the floor of the room. "Who are you?" Lucy exclaimed, unable to bear the tension. Her voice echoed through the room. The figures did not respond. Instead, they began to move closer to the window. Their shapes began to break through the glass as if it did not exist at all. Wendy backed away with a scream. "Lucy, what should we do?" Lucy grabbed her hand and, despite her panic, tried to find a way out. "Hold on to me. We can't stay here." She pulled Wendy towards the door. It was locked again, but Lucy knew she had to act. She rushed at the door, hoping to break it down, but at that moment a strange light filled the room. The light was not coming from the window, but from Wendy herself. Her body began to glow, and her eyes, looking at Lucy, were filled with something unreal, unearthly. "Wendy!" Lucy whispered. "I don't know what's wrong with me." Wendy touched her hands, which were now trembling. The figures stopped, as if frightened by something. The tallest of them took a step back, then spoke in a voice that sounded like the whisper of 1,000 voices. "The light has returned. But you can't save her until you remember who you are." Lucy froze. What does this mean? What do they know about her? Wendy moved closer to her, the light from her body warm, protective. "Lucy. I think I know what this place is. But you need to trust me. Even if it seems crazy." "What do you mean?" "It's not just night. It's the border between worlds. And I guess I've always been a part of it." Lucy couldn't take her eyes off Wendy. Her friend glowed like a ray of sunshine in the pitch darkness, but Wendy's words made her flinch. "The border between worlds? What do you mean?" Lucy asked, trying to make sense of the chaos. Wendy sighed, squeezing Lucy's hand again, as if afraid to let go. "I've always had strange dreams about this place. About the darkness lurking behind the windows, about shadows that want to stop us. But these dreams never seemed like mere fantasies. They were, like memories." "Memories? That's impossible." Lucy took a step back, but didn't let go of her friend's hand. "Lucy, remember. You've seen this before too, haven't you? This isn't the first time we've been here." Lucy wanted to object, but Wendy's words resonated strangely in her heart. Images, like fragments of a dream, began to scroll through her mind, dark corridors that she didn't know exactly, but which seemed familiar. Voices whispering her name. And Wendy, always there, the same as now. "I don't understand," Lucy whispered, clutching her temples. Suddenly the room began to change. The ceiling and walls seemed to dissolve into thin air, leaving only an endless space filled with the same darkness as outside the window. The shadows that had stood behind the glass now surrounded them in a circle. The tallest figure took a step forward. "You must choose, Lucy," her voice echoed again in 1,000 echoes. "Light or darkness? Wendy or yourself? Remember who you are, and make the right choice." Lucy didn't understand what this creature meant, but one thing was clear to her: she would never leave Wendy. "There is no choice. I choose her!" Lucy shouted, and at that moment she felt her heart fill with warmth. The light that Wendy was radiating began to flow to Lucy. She felt a power flood through her body, as if something long forgotten was returning to her. "You did it, Lucy!" Wendy whispered happily, but her voice trembled. The darkness roared again, but this time it was not the sound of fear, but the roar of angry creatures losing their influence. The shadows began to retreat, their shapes dissolving into space. "We can beat them," Wendy said, her voice sounding more confident than ever before. Lucy nodded, squeezing her friend's hand. Their light was now shared, and they both knew that only together could they unravel the mystery of this place and find their way home. But the question remained, who were they before all this began? Lucy froze, her heart skipping a beat. She watched as Juvia, full of confidence, slowly leaned towards Wendy. Their faces were so close to each other that every moment seemed endless. Lucy couldn't look away. "Wendy," she whispered, but her voice was drowned out by the silence of the room. Juvia touched Wendy's lips with hers, and Lucy felt something in her chest burst. Everything she had tried to hide, everything she had been afraid to admit, now burned within her like a flame. Wendy reacted, her eyes widening in surprise. She jerked back, looking at Juvia. "What are you doing?" Wendy asked, her voice filled with indignation and surprise. Juvia didn't seem to feel any guilt. She just smiled, touching her lips. "I'm just doing what you didn't dare do, Wendy. It's now or never." Lucy mustered all her strength to finally break free from the shackles of shock. She stepped closer, her heart beating wildly. "Juvia," Lucy said firmly, though her voice was a little shaky. "What are you even doing here?" Juvia turned to Lucy, her eyes shining with confidence. "Lucy, I'm just helping you. You and Wendy keep going in circles because neither of you dares to tell the truth. Someone had to do it. You had no right." Lucy exploded. Wendy stepped between them, placing a hand on Lucy's shoulder. Her eyes were filled with emotion, but there was no anger in them. "Lucy. Wendy began, but stopped. "No," Lucy said, looking straight at Wendy. "I won't let anyone else decide for me. Wendy, I love you." The room fell into a dead silence. Even Juvia seemed stunned. Wendy stood still, looking straight into Lucy's eyes. Her face gradually changed surprise, then a smile, gentle, warm, the kind Lucy had never seen before. Wendy finally said. Their moment was quiet, but so powerful that even Juvia couldn't say anything. She silently left the room, leaving the two of them in the glow of their newfound feelings. Lucy leaned in slightly, and this time their kiss was voluntary, mutual. It wasn't just a kiss, it was a promise to stay together, no matter what. The silence that followed the kiss filled the room, but it was special, not heavy or unpleasant, but one that gave space to new feelings that were just beginning to emerge. Lucy and Wendy remained silent, holding each other, as if their fear had vanished and only their agreement remained. "Wendy, now I know what to do," Lucy said quietly, her voice trembling slightly, but becoming more confident with each word. Wendy gently patted her shoulder, smiling softly. "Don't rush it, Lucy. We're just beginning to understand each other. There's still a lot to figure out." Lucy nodded, feeling a certain tightness in her heart, as if an invisible thread had emerged between them, gradually unraveling, giving way to new possibilities. "But what are we going to do about this? What's happening outside the window?" Lucy asked, looking at the dark void behind the glass, where that strange, undefined darkness still lurked. She felt her fear slowly returning, mixing with anxiety about what else awaited them in this world. Wendy looked at her with determination in her eyes. "We have to get through this together. I don't know what this place is, but we won't let the darkness consume us. We will overcome anything." These words reassured Lucy, but at the same time they awakened even more questions in her. What kind of world had they entered? How did it all connect to them? And most importantly, could they really handle what lay ahead? At that moment there was a sound again, not a normal noise, but a dull murmur, coming from the darkness outside the window. Lucy turned and saw something dark and vague begin to rise from the very bottom, from the horizon, and approach the house. What is this? Lucy whispered, her face tense with fear. Whatever it is, we have to find out, Wendy replied, her voice calm but her eyes shining with determination. Wendy took Lucy's hand, and together they approached the window. From that darkness, shadows emerged, moving in their own winding, non-linear paths. These shadows looked like real beings, not just creatures from the darkness, but something alive, moving with a purpose that was impossible to understand. Are you ready? Wendy asked, looking at Lucy. Lucy took a deep breath, looking at those shadows. She felt her heart beat faster, but with each passing moment she became more confident. Yes, she said, feeling something inside her awaken. We'll get through this together. And they moved forward, stepping into the darkness they were to unravel. Lucy and Wendy stood by the window, their silhouettes illuminated by the pale moonlight. The approaching shadows seemed more and more distinct, as if they were living beings with minds of their own. Their movements were strange and unnatural, as if they were gliding without touching the ground. They stopped, Lucy whispered, her voice almost inaudible. Indeed, the shadows seemed to be waiting, watching them from outside the house. It was eerie, but Wendy didn't seem frightened. She took a step forward, her eyes fixed on the window. They're checking us out, Wendy said quietly. For what? Lucy squeezed her hand, trying to calm the tremor. Whether we're afraid, Wendy replied, her voice filled with confidence. Suddenly one of the silhouettes began to approach. It was a figure that looked like a human, but with long, sinuous limbs that did not belong to anything living. It stopped at the front door and seemed to be waiting. They want us to get out, Lucy said, swallowing a lump of fear. We can't stay here. If we hide, it will only make things worse, Wendy replied, looking confidently at the dark figure. Lucy wanted to argue, but then she saw in Wendy's eyes the same determination that had helped them through difficult times. She took a deep breath and squeezed Wendy's hand even tighter. Okay. But we'll do it together, she said, trying to suppress a wave of panic. They walked to the door. As Wendy reached out to open it, Lucy felt a cold wind run down her back. The door opened. There was nothing beyond the threshold but thick darkness. But the figure stood directly before them, her face hidden in shadow. She did not move, only watched. Who are you? Wendy's voice sounded firm, although her fingers were shaking a little. The figure did not answer, but a low, eerie voice emerged from the darkness, seemingly coming from all directions at once. You are the ones looking for answers. But are you willing to pay the price? Lucy and Wendy looked at each other. I don't know what you mean, Wendy said. But we're ready to go all the way. The darkness roared like an angry ocean. The figure drew closer, and Lucy felt fear creeping up on her again. Then go, said the voice. The ground beneath their feet began to change. The room and the house melted into the darkness, as if dissolving into the night air. Lucy and Wendy found themselves in the middle of a vast expanse, where the only light was a faint ray falling from an unknown source far above. A path appeared ahead, a narrow path paved with light stones, leading into the depths of this boundless darkness. This is the beginning, Wendy said, holding Lucy's hand tightly. The beginning of what? Lucy asked, her voice quiet and a little scared. Wendy replied. They took the first step, and the darkness around them whispered, as if it had a life of its own. They walked along a narrow path, lit only by the ghostly glow of the stones beneath their feet. The darkness around them whispered, as if hundreds of voices were merging into one indistinct melody. Lucy looked around every now and then, feeling that something was following them, but there was nothing visible. Do you also think we're being watched? She asked, breaking the silence. They're not just watching, Wendy replied, pausing for a moment. They're waiting for us to make a mistake. Who are they? The shadows we saw. They are part of this world. And it seems they don't want us to go any further. Lucy nodded silently, trying to suppress her anxiety. The path led them to a large arch made of black stone. It had symbols carved into it that seemed to move if you looked at them for a long time. "What is this?" Lucy asked, feeling everything tighten inside. "Entrance," Wendy replied. She moved closer to the arch and reached out, but as soon as she touched the stone, the symbols lit up with a bright red light. Footsteps were heard from the darkness. "We're not alone," Lucy whispered, squeezing Wendy's hand. Shadows appeared ahead. They moved quickly, changing shape until they resembled human figures. But their faces were empty, featureless, just a smooth surface, as if covered with black water. "Who are you?" Wendy asked loudly, her voice sounding confident again. "The awakened must pass the test," a voice said, but none of the shadows spoke. It echoed from everywhere. "What test?" Lucy asked, trying to look brave. One of the shadows approached, extending a hand. Its palm lit up with pale fire, and the image of a book appeared in the air. "Knowledge or fear? You must choose." "What does this mean?" Lucy whispered. "Choose knowledge and you will get answers, but you risk losing yourself. Choose fear and you will save yourself, but you will remain in ignorance." Wendy looked at Lucy. Their eyes met, and although neither said anything, they understood each other without words. "We choose knowledge," Wendy said, her voice unwavering. The shadows receded, and the book fell to Wendy's feet. She picked it up and opened it. In that moment, everything around her changed. The darkness lifted, and they found themselves on the top of a mountain overlooking an endless forest. But the sky was an unnatural color, a mixture of gold and red that looked both enchanting and disturbing. "This isn't the end," Wendy said, looking at the book. Its pages had images that changed, as if showing them the way forward. "What now?" Lucy asked. "Now we will find out who we really are and why we are here." And they moved on, ready for new challenges and discoveries. Lucy and Wendy walked slowly through the forest, following the directions that appeared on the pages of the book. The trees around them were strange, tall and strangely curved, with leaves that glowed with a soft blue light. This forest was beautiful, but at the same time it gave the feeling that they were unwanted guests here. "We've been walking for hours," Lucy said, pausing to catch her breath. She looked back at Wendy, who was holding the book like a guide. "Are we still far away?" she asked. "I don't know," Wendy admitted, stopping nearby. She looked up from her book and looked at Lucy. Her eyes reflected the glow of the trees, giving them a mysterious beauty. Lucy forgot for a moment the fatigue, the fears that had haunted them since they had entered this world. All she saw was Wendy, standing very close by, illuminated by an unearthly light. "You know, Wendy, I used to think I didn't have the courage for things like this," Lucy said quietly. "For what things?" Wendy tilted her head slightly, looking at her with interest. "To tell you how I feel," Lucy replied, taking a step closer. Her heart was beating faster, but she didn't want to hide her feelings anymore. Wendy raised her eyebrows in surprise, but didn't back down. Instead, she took a small step toward him, leaving only a few inches between them. "You already confessed," she said, smiling. Lucy laughed softly and, without waiting any longer, leaned towards Wendy. She touched her lips with hers, cautiously, as if afraid to break this magical moment. Their kiss was warm, tender, and full of those feelings that had been accumulating all this time. The trees around seemed to freeze, and the light around them became brighter, as if the forest itself had blessed this moment. When they parted ways, Wendy was smiling in a way Lucy had never seen before. "I'm glad you decided," she said, lightly touching Lucy's cheek. "Me too," Lucy replied, unable to hold back a smile. However, their moment of happiness was interrupted by a sudden, soft rustling sound from deep in the forest. They both looked around at the same time. "Did you hear that?" Lucy asked, her voice tense again. "Yes," Wendy replied, her smile fading. She picked up the book and looked carefully at the pages. New words appeared on one of the pages. Not every silence is peace. Go forward, but be careful, they are close. The forest was silent, but the rustling was getting closer and closer. Lucy and Wendy stood still, peering intently into the darkness between the trees. Wendy, what could this be? Lucy asked quietly, squeezing her friend's hand. I don't know, but it doesn't look friendly, Wendy replied, peering intently into the book as if searching for a clue. The darkness between the trees began to change. The shadows themselves seemed to come to life, forming vague shapes. At first they were just outlines, but gradually they became more real. Finally, from the shadows appeared creatures resembling wolves with red eyes that glowed in the twilight. Their movements were silent, but their gazes were burning and fierce. Stay close, Wendy whispered, turning to Lucy. What should we do? I don't know, but we can't stand still. If we show fear, they will attack. One of the wolves slowly approached, its paws almost silently touching the ground. But suddenly, from the depths of the forest, a sharp howl was heard, which made even these creatures freeze. What was that? Lucy whispered, feeling a chill run down her skin. A new figure emerged from the darkness. It looked like a human, but with long black cloaks that flowed as if woven from the darkness itself. Its eyes glowed with a green light, and in its hands it held a staff that flickered with a mysterious fire. Who are you? The figure's voice was deep and commanding, as if it left no room for lies. Lucy and Wendy froze, but Wendy was the first to muster up the courage to answer. We are looking for answers. We are not of this world and we just want to understand why we are here. The figure silently approached, and the creatures parted to make way for it. The shadowy creature stopped a few steps away and stared at them for a long time. You did not come by chance. This place chose you. But you are not ready, her voice sounded mysterious, but there was a hidden threat in it. Not ready for what? Lucy asked, gathering the last of her courage. To the truth, the figure replied, its eyes flashing brighter. The truth will open doors for you, but there is a price to pay. The question is, are you willing to sacrifice what is most precious to you? Lucy and Wendy exchanged glances. Their fear competed with their determination, but both had the distinct feeling that they could no longer retreat. We're ready, Wendy said, her voice firm. Then prove it, the stranger said, and the world around them began to change. The trees parted, and they found themselves in a large hall filled with mirrors, each reflecting a different version of Lucy and Wendy, their past, future, fears, and dreams. To find a way forward, you must see yourself as you truly are, the stranger's voice echoed from all sides. Lucy approached one of the mirrors and saw herself as a little girl, alone in a dark room. Her heart sank, but she couldn't look away. Wendy stopped in front of another mirror. In it she saw herself in the future, alone, with a blank stare. What does this mean? She whispered, but there was no answer. They were about to face a test that would force them to face their greatest fears. Lucy, looking in the mirror, could not tear herself away from the image of a little girl. It was her, alone in a dark room, with a teddy bear in her hands. Her eyes were full of tears, and her face radiated despair. It was a long-forgotten past, but now it came to life again before her eyes. It's me, Lucy whispered, unable to hold back her tears. When I was abandoned, I thought I would always be alone. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. It was her wound that still hadn't healed, and now the mirror forced her to look right into it. Wendy, standing in front of her mirror, saw herself completely different. Her hair had grown longer, and her face had become stern and empty. She sat alone on a throne in the middle of an empty hall. There was no one around her, no friends, no light, no life. Is this my future? Wendy whispered, feeling a coldness envelop her heart. Lucy turned to Wendy, seeing her friend trembling. "Wendy, what do you see?" Wendy didn't answer right away. She was struggling with herself, with that feeling of emptiness that was consuming her from within. But then she turned sharply to Lucy, looking for support in her eyes. "I see I'll be alone, forever." Her voice broke, and she took a step back from the mirror. Lucy immediately rushed to her, hugging her tightly. "No, that's not true, Wendy. We'll get through this together. You won't be alone." Wendy leaned her head against Lucy's shoulder, letting herself relax in her embrace. "How can you be so confident?" Lucy pulled back a little, looking Wendy straight in the eye. "Because we are together, Wendy. Always. I will not let any darkness, any mirror, or any shadow separate us." Her voice was filled with such determination that Wendy was able to smile through her tears. "Then I won't allow it either." At that moment, the mirrors around them trembled and began to crack, their surfaces covered in spidery cracks, until finally they shattered into 1,000 pieces, leaving behind only empty space. From afar, the stranger's voice was heard again. "You have passed the first test. You have faced your fears and found strength in each other. But this is only the beginning." A new light appeared all around, and a path appeared before them, leading to a huge gate of shining crystal. "You were right, Lucy," Wendy said, looking at the gate. "Together we can overcome anything." Lucy took her hand, smiling sincerely. "We will always be together. Now it's not just a promise, it's our decision." And they took a step forward, continuing their journey through a mysterious and dangerous world, where the darkness still waited, but could no longer break them. As they approached the crystal gate, it began to shimmer with a soft light, as if sensing their presence. Lucy reached out, touching the surface carefully. The gate shuddered, then opened with a sound like the tinkling of 1,000 crystal bells. Beyond the gate lay another world. It was not at all like the dark forest they had just emerged from. There was light here, but this light was unusual. It shimmered with a silvery glow, enveloping everything around. A vast valley opened up before them, filled with unseen creatures. Creatures resembling fireflies floated in the air, but larger and brighter, and on the ground grew trees with crystal leaves that reflected the glow of the stars in the sky. "What kind of place is this?" Lucy whispered, unable to take her eyes off the beauty around her. "A place where answers are kept," Wendy replied quietly, catching the faint scent of flowers filling the air. But the valley was not empty. In the center stood a tall altar made of black stone, contrasting with the bright light around it. On it lay an ancient scroll, glowing with golden light. "We have to get to him," Wendy said, feeling her heart start to beat faster. "This could be a trap," Lucy remarked, looking around. "Maybe, but we're not here for nothing. The scroll can explain why we're in this world and how we can get back." They walked towards the altar, but with each step the space around them began to change. The valley, which had seemed so peaceful, was now filled with strange sounds. The ground beneath their feet began to tremble, and the crystal trees bent their branches as if warning of something dangerous. Suddenly, a figure made of darkness rose before them. It was tall, almost as tall as the trees, and its eyes glowed with a cold blue flame. It spoke in a voice that sounded like the whisper of 100 voices. "You're looking for answers, but are you ready for the truth? Everything you learn will change you forever." Lucy took a step forward, holding Wendy's hand. "We're ready. Whatever it is, we want to know." The figure leaned forward, its face stopping inches from them. "Your journey has only just begun. But the truth has a price. Are you willing to sacrifice what is most precious?" Lucy and Wendy looked at each other. Their choice would determine everything. Lucy took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the words the dark figure had spoken. "What do you mean by most precious?" she asked. The figure slowly straightened, its silhouette seeming to eclipse even the silver light of the valley. "The most precious thing is what keeps your heart whole. To know the truth, you must give up what is most precious. Wendy tightened her grip on Lucy's hand, her eyes shining with determination. We will not let anything destroy us. If this is a trap, know that we are ready to fight. The darkness was silent for a moment, as if pondering their words. Then it slowly dissipated, pointing the way to the altar. If you are so confident in your strength, then come forward. Touch the scroll. And find out if you can bear the truth. Lucy and Wendy walked together to the black altar. The scroll radiated a bone-deep warmth, as if calling out to her. Lucy held out her hand, and Wendy watched, ready to support her. As Lucy's fingers touched the surface of the scroll, the world around them flashed with a bright light. Everything they had seen vanished: the valley, the dark figure, even the altar itself. They found themselves in a pure, weightless void that shimmered with colors like the waves of the ocean. A vision appeared before them, scenes from their past and future mixed together, creating a whirlwind of events. Lucy saw herself as small again, but this time she was no longer alone. Wendy was there, holding her hand. That all changed when we met, Lucy whispered. But the scene changed. She saw them in the future: Wendy sitting alone on the cold throne, her face as stern and blank as she had seen in the mirror. And then the shadows surrounding Lucy, pulling her into the darkness. Wendy exclaimed. This won't happen. We won't let this happen. A voice appeared, quiet and impassive. Truth is always two-faced. One side is hope, the other is fear. The scroll reveals both, but the choice is yours. The scroll began to unroll by itself, its golden symbols glowing ever brighter. The text was written in a language they did not understand, but at the same time they knew what it said. To keep what you have, one of you must stay in this world forever. The words resonated in their minds, as if someone had spoken them directly into their souls. Lucy looked back at Wendy and their eyes met. This can't be. I won't let this happen. We'll find another way, Wendy said, feeling her voice breaking. A voice in the void answered, there is no other way. Either one of you makes a sacrifice, or the darkness will consume both of you forever. The glow faded, and they found themselves back in the valley. The scroll lay on the altar, but now it seemed as cold as ice. Lucy and Wendy stood in silence, realizing what a hard truth they had just learned. We'll find another way, Wendy said quietly, looking at Lucy. We're together, and I won't let us lose each other. We will always be together, Lucy replied firmly, although her eyes sparkled with anxiety. And, holding hands, they set off on their journey, knowing that new challenges lay ahead. But now each step was even more difficult, for there was always the shadow of the sacrifice they might have to make on the horizon. They walked in silence, holding hands. The valley behind them gradually disappeared, and in front of them the dark forest grew again. But this time it seemed even thicker and more impenetrable. We must find a way to break this curse, Lucy finally said, her voice determined, though her eyes still flickered with worry. We'll find it, Wendy replied, her fingers gripping Lucy's hand tightly. Maybe there's someone or something in this world who can help us. The forest seemed endless, but after hours of wandering, they noticed a faint light in the distance. It flickered between the trees, as if inviting them in. What could this be? Lucy asked, stopping. I don't know, Wendy replied. But this is our chance to find a clue. They approached cautiously, and before them was a small clearing, on which stood an old house. The windows glowed with a warm golden light, and smoke rose faintly from the chimney. The house looked as if it were expecting guests. Isn't this a trap? Lucy whispered, feeling her heart pounding. Maybe, but we have no other choice. Wendy took a step forward and stopped in front of the door. She knocked. A moment later the door opened of its own accord, and a woman appeared before them who looked as if she were part of this world. Her long hair gleamed silver, and her eyes were dark and mysterious. You're looking for answers, she said, not waiting for an explanation. Her voice was quiet but strong, as if she knew everything about them. Yes, Wendy replied. We want to break the curse and find a way to be together. The woman nodded and stepped aside, inviting them to enter. Inside, the house was filled with books, antiques, and mirrors that reflected the candle light. In the center of the room stood a large table with an open book on it. In this world, no sacrifice is made without consequences, the woman said, sitting down at the table. But I can show you another way. What? Lucy asked, trying to hide her excitement. You must find the time stone. It has the power to change fate, but obtaining it is not easy. You will have to overcome the darkest corners of this world and face what you fear most. We're ready, Wendy said without hesitation. It will be dangerous, the woman warned. But if you successfully find the stone, you will no longer have to choose between sacrifice and love. She reached into the book and pulled out an ancient map. This map will show you the way to the time stone. But remember, it lies in the heart of darkness, and the darkness will do anything to stop you. Lucy and Wendy carefully picked up the map. It looked old, but it clearly showed the path through forests, mountains, and a dark canyon to a place marked with the symbol of time. Thank you, Lucy said, putting the card in her pocket. No thanks, the woman replied, looking at them with a piercing gaze. This is just the beginning. And remember, the hardest decision is yet to come. Lucy and Wendy left the house, feeling the weight of their lives weighing even more heavily on their shoulders. A journey lay ahead, through dangers that could change them forever. But together they felt they could overcome anything. Lucy and Wendy set off, map in hand. The forest around them grew thicker and the silence more eerie. Neither the wind nor the birdsong disturbed the peace. It seemed as if even nature had stood still, watching their journey. We have to stay together, no matter what, Lucy said, squeezing Wendy's hand. Together we can overcome anything, Wendy replied confidently, but her eyes scanned the shadow that seemed to move between the trees. On the map, the first key point was marked as the River of Forgotten Dreams. According to the mysterious woman, the water of this river can evoke memories that will cloud the mind and heart. When they reached the river, a wondrous scene unfolded before them. The water seemed like a mirror, reflecting not only their faces but also scenes from their past. Don't look, Wendy warned, but Lucy had already fixed her gaze on the water. She thought she saw herself as a small child, sitting in the garden with someone she had long forgotten. The face was familiar and yet distant. Her heart sank, and her eyes stung. Lucy, you have to get away, Wendy said sharply, grabbing her by the shoulders. Lucy looked away, shaking her head to clear the resentment. This river, it beckons. And she's just the beginning. Wendy looked ahead, at the bridge that led across the river. They stepped onto the bridge, but at that moment the water beneath them began to rise, taking the form of dark silhouettes. They were figures that resembled humans, but their eyes glowed with an unnatural red light. What is this? Whispered Lucy. These are memories that seek to take us with them, Wendy replied, realizing that a fight awaited them. Silhouettes began to climb the bridge, extending their ghostly arms. Lucy and Wendy stood back to back, holding only small pieces of wood they had found along the way. Wendy shouted as one of the silhouettes leaned towards Lucy, whispering something barely audible but dangerously alluring. We won't give up. Lucy shouted and, gathering all her determination, hit the shadow with a piece of wood. The impact melted the silhouette, but two more appeared in its place. Wendy, without delay, took a step forward and dispelled the next figure, but there were more and more of them. Suddenly, something in Lucy's pocket began to glow. It was a map. She held it in her hand, and the light from the map made the silhouettes retreat. The map. It protects us, Lucy exclaimed. They ran forward, holding the map between them, until they reached the other end of the bridge. As soon as they stepped onto land, the water subsided and the darkness disappeared. That was too close, Wendy said, breathing heavily. And this is just the first step, Lucy replied, looking at the map. The next point was marked Cave of Whispers. Are we ready for this? Wendy asked. We must be ready, Lucy replied firmly, hugging her. We will always be together. And nothing will stop us. The darkness continued to watch them, preparing new traps, but Lucy and Wendy knew that only their determination and love would help them walk this path to the end. As Lucy and Wendy approached the entrance to the Cave of Whispers, they were met by a cold wind that rushed towards them from the darkness, as if warning of danger. Inside, nothing could be seen except a grey haze, which swirled in strange eddies, as if it were alive. Whispers are a trap, Wendy remarked, squeezing Lucy's hand. We have to be careful. If one of us gives in, the other has to get him out of there at all costs, Lucy replied, feeling anxiety tighten in her chest. They entered the cave. Footsteps echoed in the void, but the silence did not last long. Soon voices began to be heard all around. They did not resemble ordinary speech, they were whispers, soft but intrusive, like the wind in the night. Lucy. Lucy stopped short. The voice was familiar. She looked around, but all she saw was Wendy. What happened? Wendy asked, noticing her change. I heard my name, Lucy whispered, peering into the darkness. Don't listen to them, Wendy squeezed her hand tighter. But the whispers grew louder. They weren't just talking. They were painting visions in their minds, scenes from their past, hidden fears, painful memories. Lucy saw herself as a child, sitting in an empty room, waiting for someone who never came. The memory was old, but now it was incredibly real. This isn't real, she told herself sharply, but the voices seemed to drain her strength. Wendy also began to stop, as if her legs were becoming heavy. Anxiety appeared in her eyes, and her face lost color. Wendy, don't give up, Lucy shouted, pulling her hand. They're showing me something, Wendy whispered, her voice growing weak. This can't be true. The darkness around them thickened, and before them appeared a huge figure, an ominous silhouette that seemed to be created from whispers alone. Its eyes glowed with white light, and it seemed that the entire space of the cave obeyed it. Who are you? Lucy shouted, trying to look confident. We are the truth you fear, the voice echoed, and hundreds of different intonations could be heard in it. The figure drew closer, and images began to emerge from its essence, testing the hearts and minds of Lucy and Wendy. You won't be able to stop us, Wendy said, her voice finding strength again. She looked at Lucy and squeezed her hand even tighter. Suddenly, the map they were carrying lit up again, and its light began to dispel the darkness. Whispers howled, a silhouette screamed as if in agony, and the space of the cave began to change. This light is our hope, Lucy shouted, raising the map above her head. The essence of the whispers melted away, leaving only emptiness. And then a new passage appeared before them, a narrow tunnel, illuminated by a dim light. This must be the path to the Time Stone, Wendy said, turning to Lucy. We got through this, Lucy whispered, feeling relief wash over her. Wendy wondered, but they knew one thing, only together could they overcome everything that lay ahead. Lucy and Wendy moved forward through a narrow tunnel that shimmered with a faint golden light. There was a strange smell in the air, like a mixture of old paper, moss, and something else that made their hearts beat faster. Wendy, do you think this light is leading us or luring us? Lucy asked, looking back where the darkness had blocked their path. Nothing in this world is certain, Wendy replied, holding the map at the ready. The light from it had faded, but the thin lines on the paper shimmered like the veins of a living organism. The tunnel led them into a large hall, the ceiling of which was lost in darkness. In the center of the room stood a crystal pedestal, on which shone a small stone, surrounded by a bizarre pattern of clock hands. The Time Stone, Wendy whispered. It looks too simple, doesn't it? Lucy asked anxiously, looking at the surrounding emptiness. As soon as they took a step towards the pedestal, the hall came alive. Streams of light flowed across the floor, creating intricate patterns. Loud bangs were heard from beneath the ground, as if an ancient mechanism had awakened. "Get ready, Wendy! It's a trap," Lucy shouted, taking out the dagger they had found earlier. Figures began to emerge from the dark corners of the room. They looked like ancient warriors, but instead of bodies they had intricate mechanisms that moved with the precision of clockwork. Their eyes glowed with the same golden light as the stone. Wendy shouted, raising her hands. She whispered a spell she had learned from the scroll. Light emerged from her fingers, creating a protective barrier around them. Lucy didn't wait. She rushed towards the nearest mechanical warrior, her blade striking his mechanism sharply, but it only stopped for a moment, then continued its movement. "They're almost unharmed," she exclaimed, dodging the blow. Wendy shouted, sending out another wave of energy that slowed down several enemies. Lucy concentrated. Her next blow was precise, and the blade struck the center of one of the warriors. The mechanism trembled, then crumbled, leaving behind a golden dust. It worked. But there were too many of them. Every moment the room was filled with new warriors. "We can't do this. We have to find a way to get the stone," Lucy shouted. Wendy understood. She focused all her magic on creating a path of light that stretched straight to the pedestal. "Run, Lucy! You have to get him. I won't leave you. I can hold them off, but not for long. Go, Lucy!" Without hesitation, Lucy rushed forward. The mechanical warriors tried to stop her, but Wendy's magic kept them at bay. When Lucy reached the pedestal, she saw that the stone was emitting a soft light that now seemed warm and hopeful. "Sorry if this is your soul," she whispered, touching the stone. At that moment, a flash of light filled the entire room. The mechanical warriors froze, then disappeared as if they had never been there. Wendy fell to her knees, exhausted, but smiled when she saw Lucy with the stone in her hands. "We did it," she said in a weak voice. "We always do that," Lucy replied, helping her up. The stone lit up again, and in its light a vision appeared: the next stage of their journey. But instead of joy, their eyes were filled with anxiety as they saw what awaited them. "This isn't the end," Wendy said quietly. "Never was," Lucy replied, squeezing her hands in hers. The time stone radiated a warm light, and when Lucy and Wendy touched it, they felt something change in the air. Their surroundings began to change, the tunnel and the crystal hall dissolved, and they found themselves in the middle of an endless field covered with flowers that glowed with a faint blue glow. "Where are we?" Lucy whispered, stepping carefully on the grass that rustled softly under her feet. "This must be a projection created by the stone," Wendy replied, her voice filled with trepidation. A figure appeared ahead, seemingly carved from light. It was a tall man in a long cloak, his face hidden in the glow. "Greetings, travelers," he said. His voice was deep and melodious, as if 1,000 bells were ringing at once. "Who are you?" Lucy asked, squeezing Wendy's hand. "I am the keeper of time, and you hold the key to the fate of this world," the man replied, pointing to the stone in Lucy's hands. Wendy interjected. The guardian silently reached out his hand, and an image appeared in the air before them. It was a map of the world, but it was divided by cracks that spread like spider webs. In the center of the map, the time stone glowed, but dark clouds gathered around it. "This world is collapsing, and only you can save it," said the guardian. "Why us?" Lucy asked, her voice almost angry. "Because you have already proven that you can withstand the darkness. But there are trials ahead that will require sacrifice," he replied, his voice becoming sterner. "What sacrifice?" Wendy asked cautiously. The guardian looked at them both, his eyes shining brighter. "To connect the broken threads of time, one of you must remain in this world forever, becoming the new guardian." The words hung in the air like thunder. Lucy and Wendy looked at each other, their hands still clasped. No, Lucy said, clutching the stone. We've been through this together. We'll find another way. Time does not tolerate compromise, the guardian replied. You must decide, or this world will be lost. Lucy felt her heart sink as she looked at Wendy, who was also determined. We won't let this world die, but we won't break up, Wendy said firmly. The guardian looked at them with curiosity. Your choice will change everything. Make it wisely. With those words, the light began to fade, sending them back into the dark tunnel. The stone in Lucy's hands glowed brighter, and they felt that their journey was just beginning. Lucy and Wendy stood in the darkness of the tunnel, the time stone shining in Lucy's hands like a beacon of hope. Their choice seemed impossible, but they knew, the way back was closed. We'll find another way, Lucy said firmly, clutching the stone. We must. If there is an alternative, only together will we discover it, Wendy replied, her gaze determined. The tunnel before them split into 3 paths, each shrouded in something incomprehensible. One glowed blue, as if leading to an icy expanse, the second looked like a portal into chaos with crackling sparks, and the third was drowned in thick black fog. How are you feeling, Lucy? Wendy asked. Lucy looked closely at the stone. It glowed faintly as she pointed it toward the path covered in black mist. This way, she said quietly, though there was uncertainty in her voice. They set foot on this path, and the air grew thicker, as if something invisible were pressing down on their shoulders. The darkness seemed alive, whispering in their ears, making them remember the worst moments of their lives. Lucy, do you remember the day we first met? Wendy asked suddenly. Her voice was calm, but slightly trembling. How could I forget? You were the one who pulled me out of the abyss, Lucy replied, fighting the ominous whispers that tried to infiltrate her thoughts. That's when I realized you would always be my light, Wendy added, smiling slightly. Their words, filled with memories and support, gradually drowned out the whispers of darkness. But that was only the beginning. Ahead appeared a gate made of black glass, carved with strange symbols that glowed red. Lucy stepped closer, and the stone in her hands began to radiate heat. It looks like a seal, Wendy said, touching the glass. Her fingers passed through it like water. Maybe this is another test, Lucy suggested. Whatever it is, we'll go together, Wendy said firmly. They passed through the glass gates, and the space around them changed. Now they stood in a huge hall, where at every step there were clocks, all stopped at different times. In the center of the hall was a large mechanism with gears that turned in different directions, creating strange music. This is the heart of time, Lucy whispered, feeling the stone begin to vibrate. But how do we get it going? Wendy asked. In response, another figure appeared from the darkness, its face resembling a cracked mask. Its voice was cold. To get your heart going, you will have to sacrifice your most precious memories or reveal the truth you've been hiding from each other. The choice is yours. Lucy and Wendy froze at the words of the mysterious figure. Her voice was cold and distant, but there was an unwavering truth in it. Sacrifice your most precious memories, or discover the truth. Wendy repeated, her voice quiet, almost uncertain. Lucy clutched the time stone in her hands. Her heart pounded, and she felt the echo of those words penetrate her soul. What kind of truth is this? We don't hide anything from each other, she said, turning to Wendy. Wendy lowered her eyes, as if something in those words had made her think. I don't know. She whispered. The figure took a step forward, and each movement was accompanied by the chiming of the stopped clocks. Everyone is hiding something, even if they don't realize it. Time does not tolerate lies. Choose, she said, pointing to the mechanism in the center of the room. Lucy looked at Wendy. If I have to give up my memories, then I will. My past is unimportant as long as it allows us to move forward. No, Wendy replied quickly, her voice filled with anxiety. Lucy, you can't lose your memories. They're part of you, your strength. We'll find another way. But if the other way is the truth, then what should we reveal? Lucy asked, looking at her friend. Wendy was silent, as if struggling with something inside herself. Wendy. There's something I never told you, she finally answered. Her voice was filled with pain. Lucy looked at her in surprise, but she felt no anger or fear. Only a desire to understand. What is it? Wendy sighed and looked her straight in the eye. When we first met, it wasn't by chance. I was sent to you. In the world I come from, there's a legend that you're the one who can save this world. But I didn't want our friendship to start with that burden. I wanted us to become close simply because we wanted to. Lucy froze as she listened to these words. She felt something tighten in her soul. But that doesn't change anything, she said after a pause. Her voice was soft. What we went through together is real. I don't hold any grudges. Wendy's eyes lit up with relief. The figure spoke again, you have revealed the truth. The heart of time recognizes your honesty. Suddenly, the mechanism in the center of the hall came to life. The gears began to turn, and the chime of the stopped clocks changed to a melody that sounded like the song of the wind. The time stone in Lucy's hands glowed with a bright light, and a portal appeared before them. This is your path forward, the figure said, disappearing into the glow. Lucy and Wendy hugged before stepping into the portal. They didn't know what awaited them next, but they were sure that together they could get through anything. As they stepped into the portal, Lucy and Wendy felt a wave of warm light envelop their bodies. It was like a flow of energy that pulled them through space and time. They couldn't see each other, but they held hands, feeling that this connection was the only thing holding them together in this new dimension. As the light began to fade, they found themselves in a different place. Before them stretched an endless desert of golden sand, and the sky was bathed in shades of pink and orange, as if the whole world had stopped in time at sunset. Where are we? Wendy whispered, looking around. Lucy looked ahead and saw in the distance a large temple-like structure rising above the horizon, its walls decorated with patterns that glowed in the faint light. I think this is our next destination, she said, pointing to the temple. As they walked through the sand, they noticed that every movement they made strange sounds, as if someone was watching them from afar. The sand under their feet sometimes seemed to stir, but when they stopped, everything became quiet. This place is alive, Wendy whispered. Just don't stop. We have to get to the temple, Lucy replied, trying not to show fear. As they approached the temple, its gates slowly began to open, releasing a stream of cool wind that brought with it the sense of ancient aromas and secrets. Inside, the temple was like a labyrinth with corridors filled with mirrors. Mirrors again. Wendy was wary. But this time they don't reflect us, Lucy said, peering in. Each mirror showed a different scene, people struggling, loving, losing. They were fragments of stories that seemed familiar, yet strange at the same time. This is what they show the fate of the world, Wendy realized. Suddenly, a bright light illuminated one of the corridors, and a figure emerged from the mirrors. It looked like an ancient sage, with clothes decorated with symbols that glowed gold. Lucy and Wendy, the sage spoke, his voice deep and melodious. You have overcome the first trials, but what lies ahead will require more. The time stone is the key, but only your heart will determine whether you can complete your journey. What does that mean? Lucy asked. You have 3 more tests ahead of you: strength, wisdom, and sacrifice. In each one, you will learn a piece of the truth about yourself and this world. If you can pass them all, you will receive the answer to the question that guides you on this journey. But remember, every decision will have consequences. The sage dissolved into thin air, and 3 paths appeared before them, each leading to a separate test. We'll do this together, Lucy said firmly, taking Wendy's hand. They set foot on the first path, which was illuminated by bright stars, as if the cosmos itself was leading them into the unknown. As they walked along the starlit path, Lucy and Wendy felt the space around them change. The sky grew dark, the stars dissolved, and before them appeared a vast arena surrounded by stone walls. In the center was a pedestal, and above it shone the symbol of the time stone. "Is this the first test?" Wendy whispered, holding Lucy closer. The ground beneath their feet shook, and creatures began to emerge from the shadows behind the walls. Creatures that resembled their own silhouettes, but ominously distorted, like dark versions of themselves. "What the hell is this?" Lucy asked, clenching her fists. The creatures silently approached, and one of them spoke in a voice similar to her own. "You are weak, Lucy. You have always depended on others, hiding behind their strength. Are you truly capable of changing this world?" Lucy took a step back, feeling her heart sink. But Wendy put a hand on her shoulder. "Don't listen to them. They're just shadows. They don't know you like I do," she said firmly. Wendy's shadow took a step forward, and her voice was filled with cold laughter. "And you, Wendy? You are just a burden to her. Your secrets and your weakness are dragging her down. What can you give but problems?" Wendy bit her lip but didn't back down. "We're here together. That's the most important thing." Suddenly the creatures attacked. Their movements were chaotic, and they fought as if they were trying to break not only their bodies but also their spirits. Lucy and Wendy defended themselves using everything they could, Lucy competing with strength, Wendy with agility and intelligence. As one of the shadows attacked Lucy, she suddenly felt her palm light up again with the warmth of the time stone. Light burst from her hand, and the shadow froze. Wendy exclaimed. Joining forces, they harnessed the light that emanated from the time stone. Each victory over the shadows strengthened their spirit, forcing them to forget about fears and doubts. Finally, as the last shadow disappeared, the arena began to change. An inscription appeared on the pedestal. "Strength is not in muscle, but in unity. Only together can you overcome the darkness." "They were trying to separate us," Lucy said, breathing heavily. "But we are stronger together," Wendy added, smiling. The symbol of the time stone glowed brighter, and the portal opened before them again. "I guess this is a sign that we're ready for the next challenge," Lucy said, squeezing Wendy's hand. "Whatever it is, we will get through this together," Wendy confirmed. They stepped forward, ready for the new challenges that await them in the second test wisdom. After passing through the portal, Lucy and Wendy found themselves in an unusual place. It was a huge library, where the walls were made of ancient books, and the ceiling seemed endless. The air was filled with the scent of old pages and fresh ink. In the center of the room stood an old desk, behind which sat a hooded figure. "Welcome to the test of wisdom," the stranger said, without looking up. His voice was deep and calm. "What should we do?" Wendy asked, looking at the many books around her. The stranger raised his head and their eyes met. "You have 2 questions. The answers to them cannot be found in books. They must be sought in your own heart. If you answer honestly, the door to the next test will open. But if you lie or do not find the answer, you will be stuck here forever." Lucy and Wendy looked at each other. They felt the tension in the air thicken. "First question for you, Lucy," the stranger said. "What are you most afraid of losing?" Lucy thought. Her first thought was simple, she was afraid of losing Wendy. But she knew the question was deeper. She closed her eyes and remembered all the times she had doubted herself, feared she wouldn't be able to handle it. "I'm afraid of losing myself," she finally said. "My belief that I can be strong, even when the world seems to be against me. Without that, I'm nothing." The stranger nodded. "Honest. And brave. You've passed the first stage. Now it's your turn, Wendy," he said, turning to her. "What is truly valuable to you?" Wendy held her gaze on Lucy. She wanted to answer immediately, but inside she felt a struggle. She remembered all the times she had doubted her worth and importance to others. For me, value is trust, she said after a long pause. Trust in the people around you and in yourself. Without trust, any feelings and promises become empty. I learned this by watching Lucy. She showed me that trust can conquer even darkness. Wendy's words were sincere, and the library was filled with a soft golden light. The stranger stood up. You answered honestly. But wisdom is not just knowledge, it is also the willingness to accept responsibility for your decisions. Your answers showed that you are ready for the next challenge. A door opened before them, shining with silver light. What next? Lucy asked, looking at the stranger. The next test is sacrifice. Prepare to face what requires the most courage, he said, and his figure dissolved into thin air. Lucy and Wendy looked at each other. We got through this together. And we'll get through the next one, Lucy said, squeezing Wendy's hand. We're ready, Wendy added. They stepped through the door, not knowing exactly what awaited them, but confident that together they would overcome any challenge. Passing through the shining silver door, Lucy and Wendy found themselves in a cold and gloomy hall. The ceiling seemed infinitely high, and around them rose black columns covered with carvings depicting scenes of sacrifices and great battles. In the center of the hall stood a huge stone altar, and on it lay the scroll they had found earlier. But now it glowed with a golden light. Out of the darkness, a tall figure in a dark cloak, her face hidden, stepped before them. Her voice was low and piercing. You have reached the test of sacrifice. In order to open the way forward, each of you must give up something most precious. It must be something without which you cannot imagine your existence. Only in this way will you be able to complete the journey. Lucy and Wendy exchanged anxious glances. Something most precious? How is that possible? And how do we know you are telling the truth? Lucy asked, taking a step forward. You already know the answer, the figure replied. This world does not forgive hesitation. You can refuse, but then the door to your world will never open. The choice is yours. Wendy took a deep breath and looked at Lucy. Her voice was quiet but confident. I will give away my magic. Wendy, no. Lucy exclaimed, grabbing her hand. I know it's a part of me, Wendy said, looking into her eyes. But if I lose the magic, it doesn't mean I lose myself. You helped me understand that. The cloaked figure nodded. A wise decision. But will one sacrifice be enough? Lucy felt her heart sink. She knew it wasn't enough. And she knew what she had to do. I will give my memory to this world, she said quietly. Wendy shuddered. Lucy, you can't. That means you'll forget everything, even us. Lucy moved closer to Wendy and touched her cheek. If this is what it takes to get you home, I'm ready. You're the most precious thing I have. And even if I forget this place, I'll never forget who I am with you. Wendy burst into tears, but she didn't object. She understood that Lucy had already made her choice. The cloaked figure reached out, and the world around her began to tremble. Wendy's magic vanished, leaving her with a feeling of emptiness. And Lucy felt her memories dissolve, disappearing one by one. Your sacrifice is accepted, the voice said. The way is open. A door covered in glowing patterns opened ahead, and now they could see the light that led to the next stage. We have to go, Wendy said, taking Lucy's hand. Lucy looked at her, but there was no longer any recognition in her eyes. You, who are you? I'm your friend, Wendy replied, trying to hide her tears. And I promise we'll find a way to get it all back. They moved forward, together, but no longer as they were before. Passing through the glowing doors, Wendy and Lucy found themselves in a spacious hall bathed in warm golden light. This place was completely different, neither gloomy nor frightening. In the center of the room stood a great arch, lined with crystal, and around it floated glowing symbols that changed shapes and colors. What is this place? Lucy asked, looking around. Her voice was full of curiosity, but it lacked the intimacy Wendy was used to hearing. "This is a place where we will find answers," Wendy replied, trying to speak confidently even though her heart was clenching with pain. The symbols suddenly began to circle faster, forming the words that appeared before them. A test of memory. To regain what was lost, you need to rediscover what connects you. Lucy tilted her head, trying to understand the meaning of the writing. What does it mean? To find what connects us. Wendy took a silent breath. She realized that this test would require more than just strength or courage. It was about their bond, about what made them a team. The symbols scattered and formed two separate paths, each leading into darkness. Above each path appeared an inscription. The path of the heart. The path of the mind. "We need to split up," Wendy said, even though she didn't want to. Lucy looked at her, hesitant. "I don't know how to do this. Are you sure this is right?" "Yes," Wendy replied, trying to smile. "I know you can do it. You always found a way, even when it was the hardest." Lucy nodded and chose the path of the mind, while Wendy took the path of the heart. Underscore 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 un. Wendy's heart path. Found herself in a room where everything around her was like a mosaic of her memories with Lucy. She saw how they first met, how they laughed at jokes, how they helped each other in difficult moments. But each scene was crossed out by shadows that gradually disappeared, leaving behind an emptiness. A voice sounded in her head. "To restore Lucy's memory, you must give your most sincere feeling. Are you ready to show everything you have been hiding?" Wendy knew what he was talking about. She took a deep breath and whispered, "I'm ready." Her heart was filled with memories of those times when she wanted to tell Lucy how much she appreciated and loved her, but didn't dare. And now she felt that the time had come to show it, even if it meant losing herself. Underscore 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 un. Mind. Found itself in a labyrinth where the walls were covered in symbols and riddles. She felt like each correct answer revealed a new piece of her memory, but also brought new questions. "Why am I here?" she asked aloud. The voice replied, "You are looking for yourself, but you will only find yourself when you remember who you really are next to her." Among the riddles, the question appeared. What is the most important thing you have lost, but still keep in your heart? Lucy thought for a moment, and suddenly the image of Wendy appeared before her eyes. Something warm and familiar flashed in her heart. "I didn't just lose my memory. I lost it," she whispered. Underscore 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 un. Both paths led them back to the central hall. They saw each other and ran towards each other. "Lucy!" Wendy exclaimed, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Wendy," Lucy whispered, and a momentary flash of recognition flashed in her eyes. The symbols above the arch again gathered into the words. "When the heart and mind unite, the truth becomes visible." Wendy reached out to Lucy. "We're together, and that's all that matters. You're not alone, and neither am I." As their hands joined, light flooded the hall, and Lucy's memory began to return. As the light filled the room, Lucy felt a wave of warmth wash over her. She saw fragments of the past before her eyes, her first meeting with Wendy, their laughter and adventures, those moments that were not only enjoyable but also defined their bond. "I remember," Lucy whispered, her eyes filling with tears. Wendy sighed with relief, but her joy turned to concern as the symbols began to form a new message in the air. With the return of memory comes a new test. The time stone must reveal the truth, but that truth can divide or strengthen you. Choose wisely. The shining door leading beyond opened, and a breath of cold wind rushed in. It brought whispers that seemed both familiar and foreign. "We have to go," Wendy said firmly, squeezing Lucy's hand. "Whatever lies ahead, we will get through it together," Lucy added, now confident in her feelings and connection with her friend. Underscore 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 un. The road to truth. After passing through the door, they found themselves on an open plain covered in grey mist. In the center of the horizon rose a majestic mountain, illuminated by a strange glow that resembled a starry sky. "It's over there," Wendy said, pointing to the top. But the path to the mountain was littered with fragments of memories that hung in the air like broken fragments of mirrors. Each one reflected a different scene from their past, happy moments filled with laughter, and difficult moments when they doubted each other. "It's like our lives," Lucy whispered, touching one of the pieces. Her hand trembled slightly as it reflected the moment she had doubted Wendy. "This is a trap," Wendy warned. "Don't let these shadows lead us astray. They want us to forget why we're here." But the closer they got to the mountain, the more debris appeared around them, each one reflecting their deepest fears and doubts. Underscore 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 un. Battle with fears. Suddenly the debris began to rotate and merge into human silhouettes. They spoke in familiar voices, but the words were filled with pain. "You've always doubted yourself, Wendy. How can you save someone when you're not sure of your own strength? Lucy, you ran away when Wendy needed you the most. Can you deny that?" These shadows slowly approached them, trying to separate them. "Don't listen to them," Wendy shouted, grabbing Lucy's hand. "It's just our own insecurities coming to life. How do we overcome them?" Lucy asked, trying not to look the shadows in the eye. "Together," Wendy said, squeezing her friend's hand. They closed their eyes and focused on their memories, not the painful moments, but the ones that brought joy and hope. The shadows began to dissipate, and the debris turned back into light. Underscore 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 un. Revealing the truth. Upon reaching the top, they found the time stone. It lay in the center of a pedestal, glowing with a warm, soothing light. "It's more than just an artifact," Wendy said, touching it. "It's a reflection of our feelings and connection. It changes depending on what we choose." The stone shone brighter, and a voice spoke from the depths of their hearts. "Your journey has only just begun. You have renewed your connection, but now you must decide how to use the time stone. It can change not only your destinies, but the fate of this world." Lucy looked at Wendy, her eyes full of determination. "No matter what happens, we will do it together." "Yes," Wendy agreed, smiling. The stone began to pulse, and a new portal opened before them, leading to another mysterious world. A new world beyond the portal. When Lucy and Wendy stepped into the portal, the world around them changed. The sky began to shimmer with all the colors of the rainbow, and the ground beneath their feet was soft as velvet. Crystal trees, like works of art, sparkled under the light of an unknown source. "This place is like a dream," Lucy whispered, looking around. "But we're not here to relax," Wendy reminded her, her eyes focused ahead. A vast palace of clear glass loomed before them, surrounded by a halo of light. Everything looked perfect, but there was a sense of tension in the air. As they approached the entrance, a tall figure appeared in a robe embroidered with gold thread. Her face was hidden by a hood, and her voice was both gentle and commanding. You have come a long way to get here. But your journey is not complete. The time stone is not only the key, but also a test of your true nature. What do we need to do? Wendy asked. Look into the stone, the figure replied. It will show you the truth, your fears, your desires, and how your choices will change the fate of this world. Underscore 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 un. The time stone reveals the truth. As Lucy and Wendy drew closer, the stone in their hands began to glow with a bright light, changing and pulsing. Visions appeared on its surface. Lucy saw a world where she had lost Wendy, left alone in the endless darkness. Her hands trembled as she looked at it. I never want to be alone again. Wendy saw a world where she sacrificed herself to save Lucy, but she never got to see her friend live on. I can't leave you, Lucy. The stone trembled, and the voice spoke again. Your choice will determine not only your fate, but the fate of this world. You must decide, can you sacrifice your fears to protect each other? Underscore 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 un. Final decision. Turned to Wendy, and their eyes met. I'm afraid of losing you, Lucy confessed. But I also know that we are stronger together. I won't let any fear control us. We can get through this, Wendy replied, her voice confident but warm. It doesn't matter what choices lie ahead. As long as we're together. When they touched the time stone at the same time, it exploded with a bright light that filled the entire space around them. A voice rang out from every corner. Your choice has united your destinies. The stone will now be your guide in the darkness, but you must remember, every step forward will require faith not only in yourself, but also in each other. Underscore 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 un. The way forward. The stone now glowed with a steady light that seemed to be a source of protection and strength. The robed figure bowed to it and disappeared, leaving the path open to the heart of the palace. New trials and truths lay ahead, but Lucy and Wendy felt that together they could overcome any darkness. Wherever this takes us, Wendy said, smiling, I know we can do it. Yes, Lucy replied, squeezing her friend's hand. Always together. In the heart of the Palace of Time. Lucy and Wendy walked confidently through the palace's glittering halls. The light from the time stone in their hands reflected off the walls, making the entire palace seem alive. This place feels like it's breathing, Lucy whispered, pausing to examine the bizarre patterns on the ceiling that changed as if responding to their presence. Maybe it's not just a building, Wendy replied thoughtfully. It's something more, something conscious. They approached a huge door carved from silvery metal. Words shone on its surface that seemed to be written in a language understood only by the stone. Lucy reached out, and the door slowly opened. Beyond it was a hall, in the center of which stood a massive crystal mechanism. Its gears moved with an almost inaudible hum, and every part radiated heat and light. This is the heart of time, the familiar voice spoke again, but this time it was gentler and closer. The robed figure stood beside the mechanism. It holds the balance between light and darkness throughout the world. And it chooses you to be its protectors. Underscore 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 un. Discovering new secrets. Why us? Wendy asked, holding the stone in her hands. We're just ordinary girls trying to find their way home. You are not quite what you seem, the figure replied. Your bond is stronger than you realize. The stone chose you because your hearts are pure, and your faith in each other can withstand even the deepest darkness. The figure approached them and raised its hand. In its palm appeared an image of the world divided into two parts, one half was bathed in light, the other engulfed in darkness. The darkness is gaining strength. It seeks to destroy this balance and turn the entire world into chaos. You must use the power of the time stone to find and close the last rift through which it penetrates. And where is this fault? Asked Lucy. He is where your journey began. In the world you considered your home. Underscore 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 An important choice. Lucy and Wendy looked at each other, their hearts filled with determination, but also with fear of what lay ahead. But if we go back, said Lucy, can we stay together? The figure lowered his head. The time stone can only maintain balance under one condition: one of you must remain here in the palace to wield its power. The other will return to close the rift. No! Lucy and Wendy exclaimed almost simultaneously. Wendy insisted. Perhaps there is, the figure replied thoughtfully. But this path is even more dangerous. You must prove that your bond is strong enough to keep the stone and the palace in balance even at a distance. Underscore 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 The path to a new challenge. Lucy squeezed Wendy's hand. We'll try. We've been through so many challenges, and I know we can do it. Wendy nodded. We are together, and that is our greatest strength. The figure smiled, for the first time in a long time. Then go to the Tower of Balance. There you will find the answer to whether your connection is enough to save not only this world, but your own. The hall was filled with radiance as Lucy and Wendy took their first steps into the Tower of Balance. Ahead of them lay a new test that would decide their fate and the fate of the world. The path to the Tower of Balance. The tower rose before them, its spire cutting through the sky, disappearing into the glow of the clouds. Its walls were made of a strange material that changed color depending on the angle of view, from silver to black, like the night sky. This place looks amazing, Lucy whispered, holding her breath. Wendy added, carefully examining the symbols engraved on the entrance. The symbols began to glow as Lucy held the time stone closer. The huge door slowly opened with a deep rumble, opening the way for them inside. Underscore 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 First test, harmony. Silence reigned within the tower, but it was not empty, but filled with soft sounds, the rustling of leaves, the gurgling of water, and even distant singing. The hall was illuminated by a light that had no source, but a warm glow enveloped everything around. There doesn't seem to be any danger here, Wendy remarked, but suddenly the space in front of them changed. The floor split, and a chasm appeared between them. What is this? Lucy exclaimed, instinctively grabbing Wendy's hand. This is a test of harmony, a voice came from the air. Your bond must overcome separation. Prove that you trust each other even when you can't see what lies ahead. The chasm began to widen, with Wendy on one side and Lucy on the other. Two bridges of mist appeared, leading to a single point in the center. Lucy, I'm with you. Wendy shouted, stepping onto her bridge. Me too. Lucy replied, feeling the bridge barely holding up under her feet. Each step they took was a test of trust. The bridges began to disappear where they hesitated, but grew stronger as they walked confidently. In the center they met, holding hands, and the chasm disappeared. underscore 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 un. The second test, choice. After walking further, they found themselves in a hall where two stones stood before them, each of which glowed with a soft glow. Choose the one that matches your truth, the voice said again. One stone was red like dawn, the other blue like the midday sky. What does this mean? Lucy whispered. The red stone is sacrifice. You will accept the pain, but you will save everything you hold dear, the voice explained. The blue stone is peace. You will avoid suffering, but you will have to live with what you lose. Wendy looked at Lucy. What do we choose? Lucy thought for a moment, but then reached out resolutely for the red stone. We came here to fight, not retreat. Wendy touched the stone with her. A bright light enveloped them, and they felt something change within themselves. Underscore 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 un. The final test, the mirrors of truth. In the final room, two mirrors stood before them. In one, they saw their reflection, but it was perfect, the way they had always dreamed of being. In the other, their true reflection, with all its flaws and weaknesses. Choose which one is your true self, the voice said. It's a simple choice, Wendy said, walking to the mirror with their true selves. We are who we are, and that's what makes us strong. Lucy nodded, standing next to her. When they touched the mirror, it shattered, revealing a new path before them. Underscore 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 un. Prophecy of fate. Beyond the mirrors they saw a hall with a crystal throne, where the time stone glowed even brighter. A voice explained. You have proven yourself worthy of maintaining balance. But the darkness will not give up without a fight. A decisive battle awaits you. Lucy and Wendy looked at each other. They had been through so much, and now they were ready to accept their fate. We'll make it, Lucy said, squeezing Wendy's hand. Together, Wendy replied. Preparing for the final battle. After they had obtained the time stone and proven their worth, the tower began to tremble as if a living organism sensed their presence. The voice that had accompanied them until now sounded again, but with greater force. The final test awaits. It will be your decisive battle with the darkness. You must protect the balance of the world. A portal appeared before them, shining with blinding light. They did not know what awaited them on the other side, but they decided to go together. Wendy, no matter what happens, I will always be by your side, Lucy said, holding her friend's hand. And I'm with you. We're strong together, Wendy replied. They stepped into the portal and found themselves in the center of a vast arena. Darkness was rising around them, and out of it emerged a figure that looked like a giant shadow with eyes that glowed with red fire. You have come to take my power, but it will be your mistake. The creature growled. The time stone glowed in Lucy's hands, and the shadow began to writhe, trying to avoid its light. Underscore 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 un. The final battle. The battle was not only physical, but also emotional. The darkness tried to use their fears and doubts against them. Lucy saw visions of her past, where she felt lonely. Wendy faced her fears of losing the person she loved the most. It's all illusions. We're stronger than this. Lucy shouted, squeezing Wendy's hand. Together they channeled the energy of the time stone, and the light that burst from it dispelled the darkness. The creature screamed, gradually disappearing in the glow. When everything was quiet, the arena was filled with peace. The stone was gone, but they knew they had accomplished their mission. Underscore 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 un. Returning home. After the battle, the portal transported them back to their world. They stood in front of their house, under the starry sky. Their hearts were filled with joy and relief, but also with the warmth of the journey they had traveled together. "We did it," Lucy said quietly, looking at Wendy. "Yes, and now we have our own home, and we have each other," Wendy replied, smiling. Lucy slowly leaned towards Wendy, and their lips touched in a tender and sincere kiss. It was a moment that cemented everything they had experienced together. "We will always be together, Wendy," Lucy said, looking her in the eye. "Always," Wendy replied, hugging her.